Okay, recording. Woohoo! Does everyone have the little recording symbol appearing? Sweet, we have liftoff. Okay, so here we are for week 2 of contract B. I was just saying to the people that are here, some people have been emailing me about their feedback. Normally I won't get to market probably until Wednesday evening or Thursday. I'm still going on it now, so don't be surprised if you don't get your feedback prior to that week's tutorial, okay, just in terms of expectations. Generally speaking, I like to release my feedback after the tutorial so that you have things a little more straight in your mind. Hello, Miranda. Yeah, normally I like to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page with the information from the tutorial under their belt before they go unpacking my feedback, because I don't really want... I have on occasion just released the feedback prior to the tutorial, and people kind of panic and immediately start the self-doubt routine, which is not what we want at all. So that's normally the way things will go for feedback. Okay, so tonight, Diane is saying, if we're behind and working on the problem questions, can we still submit them once they're done? Sure, Diane. Not a problem at all. I don't really mind about that. It's up to you, you know, if you can manage the time to do it, that's great. Don't feel pressured. This is just, you know, an optional extra that you're getting, a few extra bells and whistles with me because I have no life and enjoy marking first year IRACs in my spare time. No, actually, if you want to know the reason why I do it, is because I think I touched on this last week. You know, my experience of first year law school was so terrifying and so stressful. I just really wanted someone to kind of hold my hand and show me how to do things a bit better, and there kind of wasn't really anything much up and about. So, yeah, there wasn't much around on the internet or anything in those days. So, yeah, that's why we do it. Okay, now I'm happy to field questions about the assignment if you would like to do so. I'm keen for this to be an open mic session, if that is at all possible. I would prefer, if it's at all possible as well, for you guys to turn on your video so I can see you. It's just a little bit disconcerting to be talking to a wall of just textual names. So if you could turn on your video for me, that would be great. I really like to see your faces. Shanae's saying you're still at work. That's fine, no problemo. If you're having bandwidth issues, I understand that can be a problem, so that's fine. But if you can chat to me face to face. Tam says, sorry, you're in my pocket at the moment cooking kids dinner. That's all good. That's all good. It's more for my benefit, actually, than yours. I just like to kind of see who I'm talking to. What I will try and do, let me see here. Okay. Now, I've got a few documents open on my desktop here. What I will do is just introduce our discussion this evening, just by way of asking you whether you've had much guidance on how to think like a law student. Have you had much guidance on practical stuff like that? Open mics, so I can...
In what way, AJ, are you referring?
In a practical life lesson kind of way, so that you can perhaps understand things from a practical point of view, and getting assignments done, getting IRACs done, getting through your units. I mean, have you already worked that stuff out, or do you feel like it's all still up in the air for you?
I would say that, in my opinion, CQ hasn't done much to teach people how to do IRAC. I only learned it because I did a business law unit with my other degree I'm doing, and we did it every week, and I had to do 2 IRACs every week. And then IRAC is different to every lecturer, what they want and how they see it. But that's my experience, so what you're doing now is pivotal for the process. It's just, sadly, it's pretty much end of first year,
Yeah, right. I understand. You are right in that a lot of different lecturers have a lot of different ideas about how to do a good IRAC. So, I guess that's one of the practical things that I guess we can jot that down. Let's have a look, see if I've got that document open. I'm just going to...
Anthony's intro last year was great, but there wasn't a lot of practical opportunities.
Okay, understand.
And some lecturers have said just write it as a letter to a client, not do the IRAC, and I found that confusing as well. It's not uniformity.
Oh. Okay. Have any of you worked in law firms, and have you guys seen letters of advice at all? Like a real life letter of advice?
Not me.
Yeah.
I have.
So a couple of you have. What you typically do not see in a letter of advice is most of the stuff that's in an IRAC. The client doesn't want to know about case law that was decided in the 19th century. They don't want to know that there are finer curly points of theory that have been discussed in the case law that's most relevant. They don't even want to see a bullet point list of the rules. What they want to know, is the upshot. They want to know the answer. And so writing a letter of advice is very, very different to writing an IRAC. And so I'm a little surprised that someone has told you to write it as a letter of advice. What an IRAC should be getting you to do, and I guess maybe someone hasn't put it in these terms, but I will. As you go into law school, you haven't done much case reading, right? And so you haven't really had to get a feel for the way that judges think on their feet. You haven't read enough case law to, for example, to be able to skip confidently to the bit that you need to read. And we can go through that in another drop-in Zoom if you want to. Working out why a judge will suddenly take a tangent onto another area of law before coming back to what they actually need to discuss, or, just the various different nuances of what you see in judicial decision making. And so you'll see, hopefully, by the end of this unit, that what an IRAC does, or should be getting you to do, is to think a little bit more like what you will see in a discussion in case law. Okay, because if you think about it, when you look at, and what I'm going to do here is share my screen, because I love to scribble while I'm here we are, while I'm talking. I'm sorry, this is kind of out to the side here. Here we go. So the first point we're discussing is IRACs and what their purpose is. Okay, so we'll discuss assignment technique in a minute. But really it's to get you thinking in terms of judge-like analysis, okay? That's handy for a couple of reasons, because not only will it help you understand what you're starting to read more, but it will get you used to organising your thoughts in the same kind of way, right? So if you go through a typical case, you will find normally cases will start with, now, a discussion of the facts, and you might have a bit of a discussion about the pleadings. And in my day, and bear in mind this was like 25 years ago, we used to have a feeler method. And that was facts, issues, law, and analysis, answer. That was the way that we did it. Principally because that's usually the way you'll see judges going about doing this stuff, okay? They'll generally tend to have a little bit of a discussion of the facts first. However, nowadays it's all fancy to call it an IRAC. And I guess this does a couple of things. Mostly in law school, there'll be no real need to discuss the facts. Your lecturer knows them, and you know them, or you should know them by the time you start to put pen to paper, okay? Also, when you discuss the facts, as a first year, what I find is that sometimes you will go off on a tangent and you'll actually start then, naturally as it will, to discuss the relevant law, okay? And then when you get to the application section, you've got nothing to add, yes? So this is why I say, and there is another reason why we don't do facts anymore, and this is a really good one. Here's a law school truth for you. 90% of your discussion in your A section, that is analysis, will form, no, I'll put here, 1,000%. 100% of your discussion in your analysis will form 90% of your marks, generally. Okay? If you've got the right rules in your rules section, your analysis will be where you pick up almost all your marks. Okay? So what we're trying to do, I guess, with IRAC rather than feeler is to get you proceeding as directly as you can to your analysis section, okay? The other reason why I keep emphasizing the fact that analysis is key is to then here, rules. They are just the thing you have to mention before you get to your analysis. Yep. You really want to proceed to your application as quickly, expeditiously as you can, preserving as much of that for that analysis section. Okay?
Do you prefer dot points for rules or actual sentences?
Excellent question. Excellent question. You know what? Here's where it gets really annoying for you guys. I'm sorry, I can't really do much about that. But lecturers will differ. I am a pragmatist. I taught in the business school for years, and I like bullet points. I like bullet points because usually, okay, we'll do this as a sub-issue. You are very welcome to do bullet points. The reason why I say that, again, it keeps you concise in this section. Normally when you're typing something next to a bullet point, you don't feel the temptation to go on and on and on and start unpacking a case and giving me the facts and doing all of that stuff. And that's what you do not want to be doing in the rules section. Because if you do not keep your rules section concise, you will leave yourself nothing to say in your analysis. Or worse, you will say the same thing twice and lose word count needlessly. Okay? You want to make your analysis as beautiful as it possibly can. And if you said half of it or all of it before in the rules section, you're robbing extra words that you could have been putting into your analysis section. Okay? So that's another really good reason for using bullet points. Another, now, I guess these two are sub-points of that. Another reason why I like bullet points is because, no, that should actually be there. You can use the bullet points as a checklist when you're in your exam. Okay? Everyone has exam nerves, you know? And it's easy to think, oh, yep, okay, sure. I know the elements of misrepresentation. You know, it has to be a false statement of fact made at or before the time of contract from one party to the other. You know, it has to induce the contract. You know, you then have to go and think about what kind of misrepresentation it is. Okay. It's easy for you to think all of that and you can chuck it into your rules section, but if you put it in a large, lengthy paragraph, you don't have a handy checklist then to keep going back to when you're writing your analysis. What I used to do with my bullet points that I used in my exam was I'd put just one sentence or even just a few words next to each bullet point, and then as I was doing my analysis I would go back and I would actually either highlight each bullet point as I had discussed that element of a rule or that case that I'd mentioned for a particular principle in the rules section. Pardon me, I would physically use that as my checklist because you can't imagine how annoying it is to get to the end of your analysis section and then realise you've left out an element. and then have to go down and draw those little carrots and the little squiggly snakes and ladder line and start writing along the edge of the exam script, or even worse, getting a separate exam script and then having to tuck it in and say, please see extra exam script. And by this time, the marker's so confused, you're confused, you've flustered, you've lost time. This keeps you on track. It's beautiful. I should patent this stuff. Okay, so there's my handy dandy idea about rules. Analysis. Now, thinking like a judge, what they will normally do, they will discuss the facts. They will do more of a feeler style thing because they have to, because the audience that they're writing for won't necessarily know the facts in that case. And also if there's any problems with the facts as pleaded, they have to address those. So they will usually go ahead and address the facts. But then you'll see judges will usually address facts. But then you'll see them that they will then move on to the relevant rules. Normally, you'll see that they will discuss the rule before they then unpack it. Then they do their analysis. Yeah. They'll usually touch on remedies. And that'll be all she wrote. Now, the hard thing about giving IRAC advice, I guess, is that most of your marks will be picked up in this analysis section, but how do you go about doing a really good analysis? Has anyone got some tips for us? Michael, you said you've been doing a fair bit, so have you found a way that you like to start off your analysis?
Oh, put me on the spot.
No, not at all. We're just chatting. We're just shooting the breeze here.
Well, I guess I always start off with a mild recap, which is like a very minor facts recap. So then I can get into it, which is depending on the issue. You might have 3 issues to deal with, and it might be just touching the fact on that and then relating it to what's wrong with it, to the rules and to a law, and then bringing up the case and then talking about how that case relates to that problem, and then go again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
But it is confusing, so I like it either paragraphing into numbers or colour coding your issue into the area is good, because you do get a bit twisted at the end.
Yeah, so, you do. Yeah.
And I prefer point, because you don't see it. And the lawyer that I've used for one of my issues is, when he sent it through, I was looking at it and he hasn't got IRAC, he's just got 3 points. And it was a consumer ACL issue, exactly S18. And it was interesting to see it, how they did it. But, yeah.
Yeah. Business style, look, in the olden days of law school, bullet points and headings and all of that stuff was just a no-no. But now I think everyone's much more practical, and much more efficient, I think. Lord Denning's decisions are lovely, but they are so convoluted. And even worse than old British case law is American case law. Oh my word. I think Denning's average paragraph was around 1,700 words. American judgments can go pages for one paragraph. It's just a different way of writing. And I think sometimes the clarity suffers for that reason. and where you can just use simple things like headings and short sentences and short paragraphs. That is a really good thing as well. Now, I will put that in there. Tips. Short sentences. Short paragraphs. And you know what? Latin doesn't really impress anymore. Won't impress your clients because they won't know what it means. Doesn't impress me, your lawyers, unless it's directly relevant. Keep it simple, stupid. That's right, Diane, exactly. KISS method always works. Keep it simple, stupid. That is.
Yeah, just one other thing on that just brought it up. My lawyer's going through it because he was sitting, because he knows I'm a law student. He was talking about, he's like, number every paragraph whenever he actually does it. So assignment most probably more than exam because you rushed off your feet. Number every paragraph. So then when you're relating it back to your client, you can say, see paragraph 13, not fourth one down on the third page.
Yeah.
And he said same thing, short sentences. Don't do this academic crap where you do 3-line sentences or 4-line sentences. Yeah.
It does not impress anybody.
No.
It really does not impress anybody. Numbering paragraphs, I don't mind if you do that for your assignment. Just beware what it might do to your word count if you're running real close to the limit. In my feedback, it'll be like the IRAC feedback that I give you each week. So it'll be in track mode, or it'll be, no, it won't be, it'll be in gradebook. So it'll be, annotated like track mode. Is how it comes back to you. That's how your assignments have been marked before, isn't it? Gradebook, with it all marked up on gradebook. Yeah. So, numbering paragraphs isn't really necessary here. I'll put in practice. Definitely in practice, because when you're writing a letter of advice, you want your client to say, oh, I'm a bit confused about para 13. And consequently, also, once you've sent the letter off to the other side, if they have an issue with what you've said, then it's very easy for the other side to say, in relation to your point in paragraph number 36.18, rather than, trying to describe what they're talking about. So you could give a snippet of your facts, as Michael said, just to get you started. You might make this short and just relevant to the now this brings me into it here. This brings me directly to, oh, sorry. Diane says that I've gone quiet. Can everyone see me? Can I have a thumbs up if you can hear me, see me? Oh, okay. Diane, I'm not quite sure what's happened. Okay, sorry. Let me know, will you? Will someone just send me a chat if something goes wrong with the sound? Okay, so what I actually thought I might do in other drop-in Zooms is just give you a few ideas about different ways to argue things. But the most, by far and away, the most common way of analysing your particular case will be by analogy, right? Oops. By analogy. So if I said to you, all right, if I said to you, who's there? Who can talk to me? Is Phil there? Phil, talk to me, Phil. No, he's gone off for a drink.
I might be able to.
Okay, Diane, sweet. If I said to you, you are not allowed to use the word book.
Yeah.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
Describe to me what I have in my hands.
Words. Written compilation. I don't know. That's it. That's all I got. That's it. I'm gonna get.
That's it. That's it. So what you're trying to do is find another word that will slot into the word book, aren't you? To send a message to the other person about what they can expect from that thing, right? It's like if I said to you, what's that? It's a cushion, okay? But if you couldn't use the word cushion and you had a pillow next to you, wouldn't the logical thing be to say, it's like a pillow, it's soft, it's for laying your head on quite often. You can use it to sit on if something's hard. Do you see what I'm getting at? If it looks like a duck and it waddles like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Yes? That's what you've got to be doing in your analysis. So you normally will head straight to, firstly, the case that gives you, the case or the legislation that gives you your first rule, element, thing to discuss, right? Now, even if it's legislation, you're going to hit case law, aren't you? So then, in discussing your case law, you're going to be not just giving the case name. Okay? So many times I will see this, this case is very similar to the facts in Smith and Jones. Therefore, the court would hold that the contract could be set aside in equity. Guess what that gets? Out of 10 marks, maybe 1. Diane says 10 marks. Can you see it's actually told me nothing as a marker, except for the fact that you know Smith and Jones, you know the case name of Smith and Jones, and that's where you're getting your 1 mark. That's all you're getting. As illustrated in case whereby blogs hit what? Whereby blogs hit Joel with a hammer. Yes. Okay, I get where you're going with that. What you need to be saying is something like, exactly. Now, why isn't that? In Smith and Jones, they walked like a duck, they waddled like a duck, they quacked like a duck, they looked like a duck, and therefore it was held they were a duck. Similarly, in this case, now, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. Similarly, in this case, the facts are almost the same, so a court would hold X. What haven't you done? What's the missing link in your analysis there? Michael's madly typing something. Details of what happened, exactly. Because if you had told me in Smith and Jones all of these facts, what you haven't then done, that's exactly right, Tad, you haven't unpacked it. You haven't unpacked it. Because all I'm left, okay, so I might have, if I gave you one mark for the first effort, right? I might have given you maybe up to 5, maybe even 6 marks for the second effort. Probably that's generous, maybe 5 out of 10. Because the crucial part is then you've said all of this stuff, you haven't guided the reader as to the points from the facts that you were given that run alongside Smith and Jones, right? In Smith and Jones, it was held that it looked like a duck and it waddled like a duck and it quacked like a duck. Similarly here, we have a goose that waddles, looks similar to a duck, and it quacks. So in this case, it's likely that a court would hold the same. So you need to, here, student conclusion. The facts are almost the same. Okay, so no, we want to unpack the facts for the marker so they can see that you know what facts are in the problem that are the same as the case law you discovered. Yes? So when you're talking about cases in your analysis, I know in the middle of the exam now you're going to go, it looks like a duck, it waddles like a duck, it quacks like a duck. If that happens, I'll be grateful because hopefully some of that has made some sense. The best way to convince anyone, be it a judge, if you're a barrister, be it a lower court judge who doesn't want to get taken on appeal, be it if you want to get good marks in your law subjects, you're going to have to analogize. Where did I put here? Okay. Best way. If you can't say something's a book, you've got to hold up something that looks like a book and say, well, it does all of this stuff and it has these features. And guess what? This one's almost the same. Yes? So they both must be books. Yeah? That's how you go about convincing a marker, a judge, your colleagues, your peers. All right? That's the most common form of argument, and that's why we get you to do this stuff in IRACs. Now, the best IRACs will not only pick out the facts that are similar, but they will also hone in on any facts that are different that might enliven a discussion of another case. Because, and this is where I want to get you thinking practically like a law student, mostly law lecturers will cobble together facts from different cases. And quite often it will be the case that what they've cobbled together will somehow be discussed, and those cases will mention each other or have some impact on each other that they want to bring out in your answer. Okay? If that's the case, there's your, look, if you've done this here, you're probably going to get 9 out of 10. And if you've done this, you'll get your 10. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's just a completely random allocation of marks there, but you kind of get my feeling behind that, don't you? So I say, I've just had a comment here. It's fraudulent misrep. So should show why not negligent or innocent backed by law. So I'm finishing the potential arguments already. Michael, do you want to just do it by mic?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Good old auto text kicked in a bit there. So let's say if I say it's fraudulent misrepresentation through my analysis, do you want me to show and give examples with the case law backing it that why I believe it's not negligent or innocent misrepresentation? Because
No.
I've had ones that say, you've got to cover all your bases, so.
Ooh, wow. Well, I would be mindful of word count. Everything for me comes back to word count, because anything that you say in your analysis section that's not relevant directly to what you need to answer takes away a word that could make your answer more beautiful. You know what I mean? It depends how the question has been asked by the lecturer. Okay, if they have said something like, please discuss these problem facts in relation to the law of misrepresentation, okay? If they have worded it like that, then you're logically going, please discuss these facts in relation to the whole of the law of misrepresentation. You know what I mean? So then you'd probably be saying, well, all right, she wants me to say it's not innocent because, there is a clear intention to mislead here, and it's not negligent because there was no special relationship between the parties. And so therefore we are left with fraudulent, and let's have a look and see if it's fraudulent or not. Do you know what I mean? It depends very much on the question. And this is where, actually, that's a good point, assignment technique. That was some more on IRAC. I just wanted to do that again with the IRAC. And if you, please don't feel like you need to stop asking me questions about IRAC, because the more you think about this stuff and the more it mulls over in your brain, I'm sure there will be further questions. So we can just keep chipping away at IRAC technique over the course of the term. I'm more than happy for that to happen. And as I said, there's other ways that you can make good arguments, and we might discuss some of those over the rest of the term. But what I've given you here in terms of analogizing, that's probably, like I said, the most common thing. But in terms of assignment technique, actually, I won't bother tapping this down. You can watch the, if you want me to make that document available for you, that's fine. Oh, am I still sharing that? Yeah, I think I'm still sharing. Does everyone still see that? What I will do in terms of the assignment is I will stop sharing that, and I'll start sharing this. Now, where is it? Oh, I've got so many documents open. Sorry, I'll just quickly shut. See, messy desk, clean mind. Here we are. Now, okay. So this is your assignment. What I really want you to do is I definitely want you to check all those check boxes for me. You check the checkbox like that and okay, and then it comes up with a little cross in there. All right, because you know why I've done that? I want you to actually read all of these things. And I want you to make sure that you've done them before you submit. Okay, I'm saving your marks here, peeps. Saving your marks. Now, I've had some people panicking already and sending me emails saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Where do I research? How do I do it? And guess what? In last week's mistake video, I gave you some really top tips about what to do and how to start thinking about the assignment question. So I would certainly recommend that you go and have a look at last week's Zoom on mistake. I did say that you will need to read the whole of the 2018, the 2018 version of the chapter on mistake, because that has all the most up-to-date cases. Now, I don't know how you go about preparing for an assignment, but this is what I do.
So just one question. How do we get that version without paying another couple $100?
It's online. It's in the library. So, good question. Good question. I will start sharing. Oh my lordy. And now you are going to get the full glory of my... Yeah, there we go. Now, have a look here. C2U library. Now, why isn't it? Oh, it's just being very slow. Here we go. All right. So you search for Wilmot. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Wilmot contract law search. And then magically you will see contract here. Number 4, 2018 text. Yes? Can you all see that? So if you click full text, right, you can, it will take you, oh, sorry, my kids are probably streaming stuff. Go. For some reason, mine's wigging out. But when you click full text, it will take you through to the results page. And you can download an individual chapter. I think you can download up to like 3 chapters, I think, is the maximum that you can. There we go. So here's your results page. View full text. So then you just got to go in and it'll let you download whatever you want to download. So go into chapter, whatever it is, 14, and you can download. There's various different options, but if you go to your table of contents, then it'll just let you select which one you want, and then you can go from there.
So what did you search? You searched Wilmot contract law?
Yeah, yep.
I went somewhere completely different with the same search.
Oh, really? Here, this is the one that you want. Mistake. So then you just click on that, and then you just click on download. Woot, woot, you're done. Okay? So that's how you get to it. The reason why I tell you that, well, I'll take you back to that page actually. The reason why I tell you that is this. So I'm assuming then that you've started by looking at the mistake videos. You have read your study guide. You have read your chapter. If you do that, when here, vitiating factors, go down to mistake. Now, if you have a look in the mistake chapter, I did mention, this is going to be a bit, it'll take a little bit of time because this thing will probably have a wig out, but 14 point, there's a good discussion that I made some comparisons of in my video, my Zoom from last week. 14.4.2 is a good place to start. And remember last week I talked about Soleil and Butcher and the various different case law there, and then I contrasted it with the discussion of Taylor and Johnson in unilateral mistake. Okay, because Taylor's mentioned a couple of times in the chapter, not just on unilateral mistake. So have a little look at the sections that I mentioned. But the good thing about the 2018 text is that it can give you a bit of a heads up as to the way that the most recent cases in this area have gone. Okay. So have a look at that. Was there any specific questions that you had about unpacking this stuff? Look through the footnotes because, like I said, that's where your good recent case law comes up. So where's some examples? There's a 2005 one there. There's some very recent ones here. Horcroft, Rees, Menegazzo. So, you know, these are the kinds of things that you need to be looking when a lecturer says you read the whole chapter and she says, have a look particularly at these kinds of discussion. Have a look at those kinds of discussion because it's usually the turgid, difficult areas of law that are most interesting for sad people like lecturers. And, you know, this is what we were discussing last night. Now, hang on. I've got more. Here we go. A link. Oh, okay. Did you want a link to the book? Was that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I was. I did just I just did post a link to it, but just in case I'm wrong.
That's what I have. There should be a link in the unit profile, yes. I did put in some information there as to how to get to the online version as well. So when you've had a look then at the text, my strong suggestion to you would be to, if you haven't already, do your IRAC from last week. Have a look at the discussions that we went through last week in the tutorial problem. And then if there are cases that update the position, like we've just looked at here, because I did mention there was a discussion about Taylor and Johnson at the end when they're discussing unilateral mistake. And then there is a crossover with the discussion in the beginning part of the chapter on common mistake. And so you need to start thinking about those kinds of things. Think laterally and then think back to your facts, okay? What facts do we have? Let's see. Where are we? Here. Okay. Issue for you, right? Like I've said, and it's no surprise, most lecturers will try and slot in some case law to make you feel a little bit more comfortable so that you can see some comparisons between some of the cases that you've gone through in class and what you see in the problem facts. Quite often, as I said, lecturers will slot into a set of problem facts certain facts that might lead to a discussion of problematic areas of law. And so lecturers are renowned for liking to put in problem facts that will be just short of one case and yet not into another case. Do you know what I mean? That are in that uncomfortable middle ground where there's no real clearly applicable case. And you have to kind of say, well, it's a little bit like that case, but then you know what? There's this other area here and this other case here, and that also has some bearing on what looks to me like this set of facts here. You'll find it's fairly rare for a lecturer to go on and on about facts for no reason at all. most facts that a lecturer will put into a problem will have some function, some purpose. As much as we like to hear ourselves talk, lecturers, when we are designing a problem question, will normally make pretty much everything that they put down on paper serve a purpose. Okay? So don't assume that large slabs of the problem facts are irrelevant, okay, or fluffy, because usually they'll be there for a reason. Okay? So that's what I'll say about that. The other thing I wanted to say, I've already had questions. I knew I was going to get questions about this, but anyway. Ensure your answer addresses all forms of mistake. I can't tell you how many emails I've had asking me, sorry, I've got a question here. That's happened before, though, to trip us up. Really? Unless there are facts that the lecturer has put in specifically to make the unwary or the unstudied go down a path that they shouldn't be going down. That is to sort the sheep from the goats, so to speak. That can sometimes happen. A law lecturer might drop in. In fact, one of my assessments from last term had some superficial similarity to a case that was mentioned in the text. But if you'd actually bothered to read the case book, and for those particularly that had bothered to read the actual decision, you would know that the problem facts actually, it was a superficial similarity at best, and so you didn't need to discuss that case at all. I can see that happening because that is one way to sort the sheep from the goats, yes? But normally most things will serve a function. So it'll either be to guide your discussion of a certain area, to make you think hard about a problematic area, like a gap between the case law, a difficulty that the case law is having at the moment. If it's uncertain, unsettled, that's normally the target, particularly because that kind of a set of problem facts will really bring out, from the HD students, will really bring out a discussion, and you can show your mastery in a question like that, because you can show you know that the area is unsettled, and so therefore you have to start thinking like a lawyer. Well, in this case, that happened. In this case, that happened. This case was held in that jurisdiction. But hang on, we're in this jurisdiction. Is that binding? No, it's not. Okay, what's happened in my jurisdiction on this particular issue then? Is there a decision from the local courts, the High Court in Australia, if the other case was an American, a Canadian, an English case, whatever. Is there a homegrown case? Okay, no, if there's nothing from the High Court. What about state courts? What about if there was something from Victoria and there's nothing in Queensland? What's the go then? All the stuff that you went through. I mean, you went through how courts are bound by other courts' decision-making in intro, didn't you?
Yeah, that was great with Anthony.
Yes. So you've got to start thinking that way also. So just because one case has held something, it doesn't mean necessarily that that's going to be good law. If it was held that way in England, it doesn't mean it's going to be held that way here. Yes? Or even if it's been held that way here and it's been held in a rather authoritative court, what about the other cases in your jurisdiction that have somehow distinguished that case? Yes? So you have to have your hat on. Okay, what is she trying to make me discuss here? Ensure your answer addresses all forms of mistake. And I've had several emails saying, oh, I've only discussed one form of mistake. Is that going to be enough? No. For 17 marks, no, it's not. Okay, now, given that we now know there's not just one form of mistake that can be relevant, how do you go about drafting up your IRAC? Okay, do you do 2 separate IRACs? I don't mind if you do. Do you do 3 if you think there's 3 different forms of mistake you have to talk about? Do you do 5? Now, I can tell you right now, there's not 5. So just those forms of mistake that you think are most likely to be raised, and you can do an IRAC for each if you like, or you may do one issue section, and then you may break your rules section into one heading for this kind of mistake, one heading for this kind of mistake. Yes, and then go down and do your analysis. And again, you can do an analysis, do your first form, and then do an analysis for your second form, and then you can do your conclusion if you like that way. I don't mind. I've done my answer guide. I personally did one issue section, and then in the rules I just broke it up according to the form of mistake, and then in my analysis again I just used headings, one analysis heading and then a subheading for the first form of mistake, and then my analysis, and so on, and then just one conclusion down the bottom. Okay, so that is probably how I would go about that. Are we all cool with that? No more questions. Oh, I have had some questions about this one. Because it's only 3 marks, I'm not expecting you to say very much. And I've said to someone said to me, how many words do I have to do for question 2? And it's really, it's how long is a piece of string? Just as long as you feel comfortable and that you've answered the question. Okay. Obviously, it's not going to be too much. Obviously, I don't require an IRAC for that one. Okay, it's just 3 marks. I'm just asking you to tell me, does she have a remedy? Okay, I'm not asking anything else. I've had someone ask me, do I have to go through and, argue an IRAC and set out all the elements for fraudulent misrepresentation? No, because I've said the court upholds her claim on that point. Okay, so she's successful there. You don't have to worry about that. The only thing you have to worry about is the remedy issue. Okay. Now, because I've mentioned fraudulent misrep here, I've said assume for this question only. So do not start talking about misrep up here, please. Question 1 deals with mistake. Question 2 deals only with remedies. Question 2 does not need an IRAC. Okay. That is a little bit about exam technique, IRAC technique, assignment technique. Hopefully that's been of some use. And why don't we go and have a little break? I will stop the recording and I will start it processing, and then we can come back. Why don't we just say 5 minutes time, make it 7:10, and then we can get a little cup of tea and come back. Okay, bye.